In 1260, the Mongol Empire stretched from Poland to China, the largest contiguous land empire in human history. They had crushed every army, toppled every kingdom, and made the impossible look routine. No fortress could stop them. No strategy could outsmart them. They were, quite simply, the apex predator of medieval warfare. But on September 3, 1260, in a dusty valley in northern Palestine called Ain Jalut, something impossible happened. The unstoppable force met an immovable object. And for the first time in living memory, the Mongols didn't just lose a battle, they were annihilated. What happened in those few hours would echo through centuries. Because this wasn't just a military defeat, it was the moment the tide of history changed direction. The moment the Mongol tsunami, which had swept across continents for decades, finally hit a wall and broke. But here's what makes this story truly extraordinary. The army that defeated the Mongols wasn't larger. It wasn't better equipped. It didn't have superior technology. In fact, by every measurable metric, they should have been crushed like everyone else before them. So how did they do it? How did a smaller force defeat the greatest military machine the world had ever seen? The answer lies in one of the most brilliant military deceptions in history. A trap so perfectly executed, so psychologically devastating, that it didn't just defeat the Mongols, it shattered their aura of invincibility forever. To understand the genius of what happened at Ain Jalut, we need to go back 6 months. The year is 1260, and the Mongol Empire is at its absolute peak. Under the leadership of Monk Khan, the grandson of Genghis Khan, Mongol armies are simultaneously conquering in 3 directions. In the east, they're finishing the conquest of China. In the west, they're pushing into Poland and Hungary. And in the south, a massive army under Monk's brother Hulagu is systematically destroying the Islamic world. Hulagu Khan is not just any Mongol general. He's royalty, commanding an army of 150,000 men, the largest Mongol force ever assembled for a single campaign. His mission is simple: conquer everything from Iran to Egypt, establish Mongol rule from the Caspian Sea to the Nile. And he's been terrifyingly successful. In 1256, Hulagu destroys the Assassins, the legendary sect that had terrorized the Middle East for 2 centuries. Their mountain fortresses, thought to be impregnable, fall one by one. In 1258, he reaches Baghdad, the jewel of the Islamic world. What happens next is one of history's greatest catastrophes. Baghdad in 1258 is not just a city. It's the intellectual and cultural heart of Islamic civilization. Home to the Caliph, spiritual leader of Sunni Islam. Repository of centuries of knowledge in its legendary libraries. A city of perhaps 1 million souls. The siege lasts just 12 days. When the walls fall, Hulagu orders something that shocks even by Mongol standards. The entire population is to be killed. Every man, woman, and child. The slaughter continues for a week. Contemporary accounts speak of pyramids of skulls outside the city walls. The Tigris River runs black with ink from the thousands of books thrown into it, then red with blood. The caliph himself is rolled up in a carpet and trampled to death by horses, because Mongol tradition forbids spilling royal blood on the ground. With his death, the Abbasid Caliphate, which had ruled for 500 years, comes to an end. The psychological impact across the Islamic world is devastating. If Baghdad could fall, if the caliph himself could be killed like an animal, then nothing and no one is safe. Hulagu continues west. Damascus, the oldest continuously inhabited city in the world, surrenders without a fight. The Mongol general makes it his headquarters and prepares for the next phase, the conquest of Egypt. Egypt in 1260 is ruled by the Mamluks, and they are not your typical medieval kingdom. The Mamluks are essentially a warrior corporation. Originally slaves, mostly Turkic and Circassian boys purchased young and trained from childhood in the arts of war. They had overthrown their masters and established their own state. Every Mamluk is a professional soldier. They have no other job, no other purpose. They are bred for war, trained for war, and they live for war. Their leader is Sultan Qutuz, and he faces an impossible decision. Every kingdom that has faced the Mongols directly has been destroyed, but Egypt has nowhere to run. Behind them is desert and sea. Surrender means certain death, because Qutuz had personally killed Mongol envoys years earlier, an unforgivable sin in Mongol law. As Qutuz prepares for the inevitable Mongol invasion, something unexpected happens. In distant China, Monk Khan dies suddenly while campaigning. Mongol law requires all royal princes to return to Mongolia for the election of a new great Khan. Hulagu must go back, but he can't take his entire army. The logistics of moving 150,000 men across Asia are impossible. So Hulagu makes a fateful decision. He leaves behind a force of 20,000 men under his most trusted general, Kitbuka, with orders to complete the conquest of Egypt. After all, 20,000 Mongols had been enough to destroy kingdoms before. Why should Egypt be different? This is the moment Qutuz has been waiting for. The odds have shifted from impossible to merely desperate. The Mamluks can muster perhaps 20,000 men of their own. For the first time, they won't be outnumbered 5-1. They might actually have a chance. But Qutuz knows that equal numbers aren't enough. The Mongols have defeated equal forces before, many times. Their tactical superiority, their discipline, their psychological warfare, all make them more than a match for any conventional army. If the Mamluks are going to win, they need to be smarter. They need to turn the Mongols' own strengths against them. The plan that Qutuz and his generals devise is breathtaking in its audacity. They will not wait for the Mongols to invade Egypt. Instead, they will march out to meet them, but not in a direct confrontation. They will lure the Mongols into a trap that exploits the one weakness in the Mongol military machine, their absolute confidence in their own invincibility. The Mamluks march north from Cairo in July 1260. Their destination is carefully chosen, the valley of Ain Jalut in northern Palestine. The name means Spring of Goliath, supposedly where David slew the giant. The symbolism is not lost on anyone. But Qutuz chooses it for more practical reasons. The valley is perfect for what he has in mind, narrow enough to neutralize the Mongol cavalry's mobility, surrounded by hills perfect for hiding troops, and with only one good escape route, which the Mamluks plan to control. As the Mamluks march north, they send scouts ahead with specific orders. Find the Mongol army. Let yourselves be seen. Then run. Make it look like panic. Make the Mongols believe the Mamluks are afraid. It works perfectly. Kitbuka receives reports of Mamluk scouts fleeing at the first sight of Mongol patrols. He smells fear. And like any predator, the scent of fear makes him eager to pursue. On September 3, 1260, the two armies finally meet. But what Kitbuka sees is not the full Mamluk army. Qutuz has hidden most of his forces in the hills surrounding the valley. In the valley itself, he places only his vanguard, commanded by his greatest general, Baibars. The trap is set. Now they need the Mongols to walk into it. Baibars plays his role perfectly. As soon as the Mongols appear, he orders his men to attack, but tentatively, hesitantly. They loose a few volleys of arrows, then seem to panic. The retreat begins slowly at first, then faster. To the Mongols, it looks exactly like what they've seen 100 times before. Another army breaking at the first taste of Mongol steel. Kitbuka orders the pursuit. This is standard Mongol doctrine. When the enemy breaks, you run them down. You don't let them regroup. You destroy them completely. The Mongols surge forward, their mounted archers loosing arrows at the fleeing Mamluks, their heavy cavalry preparing for the killing blow. But as they advance deeper into the valley, something strange happens. The fleeing Mamluks aren't scattering. They're retreating in good order, turning to loose arrows of their own, then continuing their withdrawal. It's almost like they want the Mongols to follow them. By the time Kitbuka realizes something is wrong, it's too late. Horn calls echo from the hills on both sides of the valley. Thousands of Mamluk cavalry appear on the ridges, having waited in hiding for hours. In seconds, the hunters have become the hunted. The Mongols are surrounded. But even now, trapped and outnumbered, the Mongols don't panic. These are veterans of 100 battles. They've fought their way out of worse situations. Kitbuka rallies his men, forms them into their traditional battle formation. If the Mamluks want to fight, they'll get one. What follows is not a battle, but a masterclass in psychological warfare. The Mamluks don't immediately attack. Instead, they begin a devastating archery duel. Now, the Mongols are master archers, perhaps the best in the world, but the Mamluks are their equals. More importantly, they're fresh, while the Mongols have been riding hard in pursuit, and they have the high ground. Arrows fall like rain. The Mongols, packed into the valley floor, make easy targets. Their horses, the foundation of their military system, begin to fall. A Mongol without a horse is half a warrior. But still they fight, their discipline holding even as their situation deteriorates. Then Qutuz plays his masterstroke. He personally leads a charge from the hills, timing it perfectly for maximum psychological impact. The Sultan himself, golden armor gleaming in the sun, smashes into the Mongol flank. The symbolism is powerful. This is not just another general. This is the leader of the last free Islamic state, come to deliver divine judgment on the destroyers of Baghdad. The Mongol line wavers. For the first time in living memory, a Mongol army is being pushed back. But Kitbuka is no ordinary general. He rallies his men again and again, leading countercharge after countercharge. For hours, the battle hangs in the balance. The Mamluks have sprung their trap perfectly, but the Mongols are still Mongols. They die hard. The turning point comes when Kitbuka's horse is killed under him. In the chaos of battle, he's separated from his bodyguard. Mamluk soldiers surround him. He fights like a demon, but the numbers are too great. When he finally falls, the Mongol resistance collapses with him. What happens next is unprecedented. A Mongol army doesn't just retreat, it disintegrates. The survivors flee in complete disorder, pursued by Mamluk cavalry. Of the 20,000 Mongols who entered the valley of Ain Jalut, perhaps a few thousand escape. The rest are dead or captured. It's not just a defeat, it's an annihilation. But the genius of Ain Jalut goes beyond tactics. Kutuz understands that defeating the Mongols militarily is only half the battle. The other half is psychological. The Mongols' greatest weapon has always been fear, the belief that they are invincible, that resistance is futile. That belief has now been shattered. Kutuz makes sure the entire world knows what happened. Kitbuka's head is sent to Cairo, where it's displayed on the city gates. Messages are dispatched to every corner of the Islamic world. The Mongols can be beaten. They are not demons or divine punishment. They are men, and they can die like men. The impact is immediate and profound. Across Syria, cities that had submitted to the Mongols rise in rebellion. Mongol garrisons, suddenly looking very mortal, are massacred. Within months, the Mongols are driven entirely out of Syria and Palestine. The high water mark of Mongol expansion in the west has been reached and passed. Hulagu, when he learns of the defeat, is apoplectic. He prepares a massive army to avenge Kitbuka. But he will never get the chance. The Mongol Empire is descending into civil war, brother fighting brother for the throne of the great Khan. Hulagu must use his armies to secure his own position, not to reconquer Syria. By the time the Mongols are ready to return, the moment has passed. The Mamluks have fortified their positions, other powers have risen, and the unstoppable Mongol war machine has ground to a halt. The Battle of Ain Jalut marks more than just a military turning point, it's a psychological watershed. For the first time, a non-Mongol army has not just resisted, but completely destroyed a major Mongol force. The spell is broken. If the Mamluks can do it, others can too. In Europe, kingdoms that had been preparing for Mongol invasion breathe a sigh of relief. In the Islamic world, the victory becomes legend, proof that faith and courage can overcome any enemy. The Mamluks, once slave soldiers, are now the saviors of Islam. Their prestige will sustain their empire for another 250 years. But perhaps the most profound impact is on the Mongols themselves. After Ain Jalut, they are never quite the same. Oh, they remain formidable. They will win many more victories, conquer many more lands. But the aura of inevitable triumph is gone. They are no longer forces of nature, but merely another empire, powerful, but mortal. The tactical innovations of Ain Jalut become a template for fighting the Mongols. The key lessons are studied and applied. Don't fight them on their terms. Use terrain to neutralize their mobility. Match their archery. And above all, don't let their reputation defeat you before the battle begins. Within a generation, the Mongol Empire begins its long fragmentation. The unified world conquest envisioned by Genghis Khan proves impossible. Different Mongol states evolve in different directions, some becoming Chinese, others Persian, others converting to Islam. The empire that once made the world tremble becomes a collection of regional powers, formidable, but no longer apocalyptic. Looking back, Ain Jalut stands as one of history's most consequential battles. Had the Mongols won, had they conquered Egypt, the entire trajectory of world history changes. North Africa falls next, then perhaps Muslim Spain. The Renaissance might never happen or happen very differently. The Islamic world might have been extinguished entirely or transformed beyond recognition. Instead, a group of slave soldiers in a dusty valley proved that empires, no matter how mighty, have limits. That discipline and courage can overcome reputation and fear. That David can still beat Goliath if he's smart enough and brave enough. The spring of Goliath lived up to its name that day. But this time, it wasn't a shepherd boy with a sling who felled the giant. It was an army of slaves who had made themselves kings, using the giant's own momentum to bring him crashing down. And in that fall, the medieval world shifted on its axis, sending ripples through time that we still feel today. But the story doesn't end at Ain Jalut, because while the Mamluks celebrated their impossible victory, a young Mongol prince named Kublai was consolidating power in the east, and his vision for the Mongol Empire would transform it from a force of destruction into something far more complex and enduring. The age of conquest was ending. The age of transformation was about to begin. What do you think was the most crucial element in Kutu's strategy? The tactical ambush or the psychological warfare that followed? Let me know in the comments. And if you want to see how Kublai Khan completely transformed the Mongol Empire into something the world had never seen before, make sure to subscribe because that story will change everything you think you know about conquest and civilization. Hit that like button if this battle amazed you. We're just getting started with the most incredible moments in military history.